Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a truly special online event today. It's called Energy Healing for Empaths Amid Chaos. Awaken your unique power to heal as you find calm, clarity, and strength within. My name is David Gandelman, the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I think it's true for a vast majority of folks in the Shift Network that recent times have been tumultuous and chaotic, and there's a lot coming at us from the collective that can feel like it's an impediment to our contribution, to our blossoming. And I also feel like a lot of the more sensitive among us are who have the gifts to help us evolve out of the situation that we're in as well. And so today's really important on a personal level and on a collective level for us to build some tools with a leading teacher around empaths and how to navigate in a way that builds that sensitivity into a superpower that helps find the clarity and calm within. His name is David Gandelman. He's an author and spiritual teacher. He's hosted several empath summits for us, so he's really been at the forefront of this work, and I think is going to provide some great insights today for you. And if you want to go further, we have a great new course with him coming up. It's called Energy Healing for Empaths, and we'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So with that said, David, thank you so much for joining.
Great to be here. Good to see you again, Stephen.
Great. Well, I always like to begin with a bit about your backstory and journey. And since typically we're teaching that which we've had to transform in our own lives on some level. So maybe share a little bit about your own journey as an empath and learning how to navigate more chaotic external circumstances.
Sure. So, Stephen, I was the kid that when the other kids were playing and messing around in class, I was looking at the teacher going, "Can't you see you are hurting her feelings right now? This is killing me. Can you just be quiet so she will be happier and not in pain?" And so I think from an early age, not that I didn't fool around too, but from an early age, I was pretty sensitive to other people's feelings, emotions, to energy. I didn't know what that was, obviously, but I always had maybe a higher level of emotional sensitivity. And when I got older and I started meditating pretty young as well. I was 16. And when I started meditating and gave some context to those feelings and sensitivities, that's when I was able to navigate the world a little bit better. But it wasn't until, very short version of the story. I went and I lived after college. I lived in Spain, where I am now. And then I went off and lived in the ashrams in India, in the Himalayas, learning from a lot of gurus up there. And they would always teach you the same kind of, you sit still, you find enlightenment, and then you have inner peace forever and you're done. That kind, almost like you're a toaster, you hit bing, and you're done. Uh, and that, okay, because it's the story of the Buddha, right? He sits under the Bodhi tree, he finds enlightenment, then he's peaceful the rest of his life and becomes a teacher. But when I was in India and I was doing all this spiritual work, I had a friend partner. She said, "Would you like an intuitive reading?" And I was like, "I don't know what that means, but bring it on." And we were sitting on these pillows in the Himalayas at a restaurant just in India. Sometimes you sit on the ground in some of these Himalayan restaurants on the Ganges River. And she closed her eyes and she did an intuitive reading on me. And she could see the way I felt on the inside. I didn't understand how that was possible. And some of the stuff she said was just so true. I mean, at one point, my chest was so itchy and I was like, "You can't move. She's doing her thing. Don't move." And she was like, "Is your heart, your chest looks really itchy." And I was like, "Oh God." And I started scratching it. I was like, "Man, you can even see I'm itchy." And so I decided I want to learn how to be that sensitive to energy the way she is. And I asked her how she did it. She showed me there was this school in Hawaii. So I moved to Hawaii. I spent 7 years at a school for intuitive development where I learned how to read energy, how to do healing work, all the really woo woo stuff. But I think in a very grounded, practical, and safe way. And so ever since that time, I've been teaching other people how to use their spiritual abilities, including empathic abilities, and how to be able to share those gifts in the world and not be one of those sensitive people that just hide inside their house or apartment because there's too much energy out there. They don't want to be around the negativity and around the pain. And if you're listening, you're one of those. Stick around because we're going to discuss that. But a lot of sensitive spiritual people don't like to engage with the world because of all of the pain out there. And that could have been my destiny as well. Luckily, I learned a lot of good tools, so I was able to shake some of that off and be in a world full of sometimes unconscious people.
Hmm. So I'd love to let's go dive into that a little bit more. So you at this point with all the practice you've done, you feel like you can be fully show up for even very chaotic, very aggressive, whatever situations that are getting activated in the world, and you can feel like you can hold center now.
I will admit I'm from New Jersey, and so maybe I was had a more of a capacity in general because the energy there could be a little coarse. But obviously not perfect, but I have a greater capacity than
Uh-huh.
I did. I think to be in an energy that feels uncomfortable or painful than
Uh-huh.
maybe when I was younger. Yeah.
So let me ask, because so often when we're talking about creating healthy boundaries, being able to kind of create some shielding, if you will, from some of the negativity or lower vibration, there's a lot of that out there. How do you relate to this idea of like shielding or protection?
I definitely use some of those tools and teach them, but if you create protection or boundaries out of resistance, then you're also keeping energy out of your life, which a lot of empathic, sensitive people end up feeling very isolated and lonely, always separating from the world. So I think you have to be careful and really, if you're going to create a boundary, it needs to be out of neutrality. And I think of a boundary as more like if you had a satellite orbiting around you, and if there was some energy coming towards you, it has a sensor and it would tell you there's some stuff on the left side coming in here or some negativity from above. It's more of a sensor that makes you aware of energy than necessarily keeps everything out.
Hmm.
So we can keep some energy out, we can let energy pass through us if we're neutral. But if we're in resistance and we're fighting the world, then the energy tends to stick to us. And so if that boundary is created out of resistance, it actually tends to be a beacon and draws more in.
That's a really interesting point. What you resist persists in some level. Yes.
Yeah. And will manifest in your life more.
So let's without naming any names already, let's say that the current political situation is impinging on a lot of people in different ways. And so how do you show up for that in a way that's neutral? Like you're saying, you're sort of actually finding the place of boundaries or engagement that's more neutral because what I know about a lot of sensitive people, they feel completely buffeted about by it.
Well, let me just preface that by saying I do have a degree in politics and I did work in Washington for a minute. So I've seen it very close, up close. That being said, as a human being, we're never truly neutral to everything, right? We have feelings, we're human, we don't like certain things and we like other things. But if you're a meditator, if you're learning to work energy, you can learn how to ground and regulate your nervous system, and like I was saying earlier, have more of a capacity for negativity to pass through your life instead of running from it or
Hmm.
fighting it. And there's a teacher I love that used to say, between the banks of pleasure and pain is where the river of life flows. So
Hmm.
a good energy worker, good healer, learns how to be more neutral, not always chasing pleasure, avoiding pain, which is kind of how we're wired. Our evolution wires us to chase pleasure, avoid pain, and that actually creates a lot of suffering. And so, for example, in politics, if you're like, I don't like that president, I don't like that government, and you just go into real intense resistance and anger, then you've lost your neutrality and you've lost your power and your ability to think and see clearly. So I think instead, it's important to have understanding. Oh, okay, that person might be a narcissist, or that person's power hungry, or that society is busting at the seams. So I can be aware of information, of energy, have understanding, and then also have some compassion, regulate myself, and not just go right into fight or flight,
Hmm.
which is this very unconscious reaction all human beings have. So when we're practicing some kind of presence practice, we learn how to create a gap from our normal stance of immediate reaction. And
Hmm.
then instead we can respond. So even if it's like politics that you can't stand, when it's hitting you in the moment, can you just be present, be a bit calmer and more neutral, see if you can find some compassion, and then respond instead of react? That's for me, that's a
Hmm.
baseline. We could spend the whole hour just
Yeah,
on
that's great. Well,
that.
we don't have to go too far down, but I know
Yeah.
that's up in the field for a lot of people right now. Um, So it sounds like you're kind of creating like almost like an energetic filtration system. Like some things are getting, with a more neutral stance, getting sort of held out. Some things are passing through, and some things you're working with in the middle, it sounds like.
Yeah, when I was at the school in Hawaii, I'll never forget this one moment. We were sitting doing some meditation, energy work stuff, and this woman walked into the school, and her energy was super chaotic, and it was everywhere. No boundaries, just barges in, and she just starts yelling kind of loudly and goes, "I'm looking for so and so." And I'll never forget it, Stephen. My teacher stood up and she walked up to the woman, and the woman hit like her aura. It was almost like 2 feet from her body, just like physically, it looked like she bounced off of it, backed off, like almost stumbled backwards and just walked out of the building. And I was like, that was some ninja, psychic ninja stuff right there. And it was like that energy is not welcome here. So I do think there are moments where we can do that. And I've had that happen myself, and I've seen it happen many times. So we can have a kind of energetic shield, but I would just warn that you don't want to always have a shield up. As we know, if you just put
Hmm.
up walls and shields, you end up isolating. So it's useful
Hmm.
in moments, but you want to be pragmatic, I think, and flexible. In other moments, you want to be very neutral and open and let energy in and let it pass through. So I think we can do both things.
So when you let it pass through, you're actually sort of benefiting more. So you're still staying engaged with it, it sounds like. So you kind of want to keep opening that aperture to the point that you can sustain.
And it depends, yes, and it depends what energy it is. So I'll never forget, I was sitting around this table with a group of people in Hawaii. I think we were chopping lettuce on a farm, and somebody said something really critical towards me and coarse. And I was practicing this tool that I was learning in school of just letting it pass through my body, almost like light passing through a window, just letting it pass through instead of sticking. And I was practicing that tool, working on being neutral, accepting as much as I could. And then about half an hour later, this guy who witnessed it comes up to me, goes, he's like, "David, I don't know how to explain this." And I'm not joking, but I saw her comment hit your shoulder, roll over your head, and then roll off the other shoulder. I don't even know what that means, but I saw it. It was like an energy. It rolled off of you. How did you do that? And I was like, well, there are energetic tools we can learn to work with energy, let it pass through, go over us, around us, or like my teacher did, have that shield of protection. And different moments, I think, call for different tools.
It's interesting. I studied Aikido for a couple of years, so it's very Aikido like, just kind of blending with it and then moving it, redirecting it right back out. That's cool.
Exactly.
That's cool. So share a little bit more from, I know you really see sensitivity as an evolutionary gift, and I'd love for you to share more about like why this cultivation of refinement and discernment and being able to kind of work with energies like this is so important for us individually and collectively.
Well, it can be a gift for most people. Unfortunately, I think it's a curse. And a lot of, I've hosted the Empath Summit a number of times. And so I've spoken to so many psychologists and teachers, empaths, about this topic. And one of the main causes of being maybe an excessive empath, where you feel too much and you can't turn it down, is having a childhood that didn't feel safe. And so sometimes when you have a childhood that doesn't feel safe, you got to turn your awareness around energy up, so you can always be gauging, is that person going to be violent? Is there going to be chaos? Do I need to protect someone? And so a lot of kids turn that ability too high, they go into survival mode. And so what can be a blessing kind of becomes a curse, because then they get really anxious when anything happens in adulthood, or stressed out. Their nervous system is so dysregulated. Even something minor can really throw them off, sometimes for days or weeks. And so, if we could take that and turn it into an ability that's useful and really helps us, I think that's what we're here for. So, how, if I am a sensitive person and I have experienced a lot of pain, how do I turn that into my superpower?
Mm,
Well, I mean, first of all, I think there's nothing more validating than being with a person that can feel how you feel, that can see you, sense you, and understand you. So The empath has this ability of understanding and feeling another being, and that is what love is made of. And so that is an incredible ability if you use it wisely. You can become a counselor, a teacher, a healer, a guide, a mentor, right? You can be an incredible leader. The best leaders are empathic. The worst ones are obviously not. And so there's just so much you can do with these abilities. And obviously I do healing work, so that's one of the ways, and teaching work. Those are two of the ways that I use that ability.
Hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the backlog. So, if people had a more traumatic or destabilizing childhood and they haven't really learned these tools, most empaths are going to be have a backlog of having absorbed stuff that just isn't really helping them. How do you start working with that sort of backlog to release that and then establish some new, better patterns?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was just teaching a retreat in Portugal, and that was one of the main topics that everybody in the room kept bringing up. And so, one of the things I like to start with is, whose pain is it? So,
Hmm.
for empaths, a lot of times the pain they're experiencing is pain that they absorbed from other people, from childhood or adulthood, or anything in between. And so, you have to learn to recognize, is this pain I'm experiencing mine or not? So for an empath, it's always a good first step. I was working with someone recently who they realized that a lot of it belonged to their mother, and that's why they couldn't heal it, fix it, or even figure it out. They were just grinding on it, and it was not going anywhere. It just, you could spin around something over and over, like, why isn't it healing? You know, that sense of stuckness we get with a feeling that just won't go. And so when she realized, okay, this is my mother's pain, then she could start to release it and give it back to her mother so her mother could heal it herself. There's the energetic side of that equation, and then the practical side of maybe saying, hey, mom, I'm putting up a new boundary with you.
Hmm.
The energetic side might be actually sitting in meditation, recognizing that energy and releasing it. And there's tools that I teach my students to do that.
Hmm. That's super helpful. And do you want to give a glimpse of any of those tools that I know you're going to be doing more in your upcoming course, but just like how you sort of, once you've identified what's not yours and then what you need to release, like how do you start to release it from your field?
Yeah, absolutely. And then let me just say, before we even get there, once we say 50 or 80% of an empath's pain is external, they're going to feel so much better releasing that, and so much confusion is going to come out, and doubt and chaos. And then that 20, 30, 50%, whatever's left of you, that's yours, it feels good to work on. It's like
Hmm.
when you have grief, but you know the grief is yours. Even though it hurts, it feels good in a way because it's tied to your growth and to your feelings. And so when we release other people's pain, that makes it easier to see ours more clearly. So I just want to say that. So
Hmm.
when we go to release pain, there are a number of tools. What I like to usually start though with my students is just to learn to not just feel the pain, but to also see it. We mostly just feel it. But for example, if I had a student in meditation and they told me I have this pain, I don't know what it is, it just won't go away, I'll usually ask them to get some texture. You know, like when you run your hand across a garment of some kind or a shirt, like, is it silk? Is it linen? What is it? Is it cotton? So if you were to like run your energetic hand across the pain, what's the texture? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it dense? Is it sharp? Is it prickly? So we get out of the story mode of where it came from, and we get out of just feeling it over and over and start almost curiously observing it. What color is the pain? Is it a blob? Is it a cloud? Is it little red dots? So we start to get familiar with it in all those different ways. And where is it? Is it in your body, or is it actually hovering around your body or above your body? It might be inside the body. It might actually be in the field around your body. And so we're curiously just exploring the pain. And when we do that, we get a new level of neutrality. If I just feel everything fully, it's hard to be neutral. Your body is not neutral to feeling. And so, first step is starting to feel the texture, to see it, see the colors, see the energy of it. And then from there, we might realize, wow, that red, weird, prickly blob, I can just start to tell there's almost a knowingness. It's feminine and I'm masculine, or it feels like a parent, or it feels like a sibling's energy or a coworker or an ex's. Just when you get some space, there's this natural knowingness that is that doesn't even belong to me. I can just sense it. We get there through practice, obviously, not all at once. We go, oh, okay, wow, that's not even mine. Or I'll ask them, what percentage of this pain is yours? Well, only
Hmm.
10. The rest seems to be external. And they might get a memory of when they pulled it in from childhood. Like, oh yeah, I remember this moment. Actually, there's a memory inside the cloud of pain, and it's this memory the moment my parents got divorced, as an example. And so, usually, a cloud of pain will have a memory, deeply lodged inside of it, and it might come out during this process, or a few of them might come out.
Hmm.
And then what I'll do is we'll have some form of visualization to release the pain. Maybe it goes into a bubble or into a rose or down through a grounding cord of some kind into the earth. So some way to visually release that energy. And I found kind of those steps really work well to releasing energy and getting people out of the story. I can't tell you how many times I've walked someone through this, and then in the middle they start telling me the whole story. I'm like, no, no, no story, just energy.
Do sometimes people need to give themselves permission to release the old energy from other people? Because I've noticed sometimes with empaths they have some sense of obligation or kind of a little bit of a savior complex. I'm going to sort of like work through this energy for the good of other people.
Without a doubt. In fact, some of that energy we might call guilt on
Hmm.
occasion. So that might be the one. If someone's like, David, nothing's releasing, it's not moving. I'm trying to release, it's not going. I'll say, well, let's look at the outer layer of this. What is the energy that says you can't release it? And it might be like shame or guilt. If I release this, then I'm not going to save the person. And then those memories come out. And so absolutely. So whatever layer is coming up, like I can't release this. I'm not good enough to release this. All right, maybe there's some self-worth coming out. And so there's no energy. I always tell my students, there's no energy that you can't handle. Even the energy that says, I can't handle this, I'm overwhelmed, I can't do it, even that is still made of a color and shape and density and still could be looked at and still could be released. There is no energy, in my personal experience, that we can't handle. That doesn't mean we don't need help. Sometimes we need a counselor, a therapist, a guide, a healer, a coach. We're here, right? But I don't believe that there's any energy that ultimately we can't get through.
Hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about the practice that you want to lead us in. I know it's important to not just hear theory, but to like really begin to make these shifts you're talking about. So I know you're going to do a guided visualization. So you want to, give us a little bit of context for that and then tee it up.
Absolutely. And so I wanted us to collectively release some of the collective anxiety and pain that we're experiencing. There's all of this constant apocalyptic energy, this intensity with the media. I know you're very conscious of it. You write about it. And most people are just a bit more on edge, in my experience as a teacher, than they've been in the past. And obviously, it's the hyperconnectivity. And it's funny because I always tell my students, if you look at any other time period in all of human history, life was worse for most people on average. So, for example, for most of human history, the life expectancy was less than 35. In the United States by 1900s, it was 42. And now it's in the late 70s. Some places in the world, it's in the 80s. You go to Japan, it's like 100 something. So, uh, uh, for some reason, there's this huge disconnect between how the world actually is and how we're experiencing it. And obviously, one of the reasons is that hyperconnectivity. One bad thing happens to one person, we all hear about it within 5 seconds. And I think what's happening is there's mental pollution. There's not just physical pollution, but there's mental pollution. And we're sensitive beings, and we're, as empaths and telepaths, we're absorbing it mentally, we're absorbing it emotionally, and you really can only eat for one person. And when you start trying to absorb all that energy for all of humanity, you get overwhelmed, stressed, anxious. Maybe you get despondent. This isn't worth it. This is too much. You lose hope in humanity. But all it is that energy that you're absorbing, speaking. It's not, in my view, reality. And so during this meditation, I want to just take a few minutes where I'm going to walk you through how to recognize some of that collective energy and release it. Obviously, it won't be all of it at once, perhaps, but we could get started.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. All right, let's roll. So, and when I guide meditation, you don't have to be in the deepest trance state of your life. You can gently close your eyes and just be wherever you are. And I always like to start by just relaxing the shoulders. A lot of people will hold the world up on their shoulders, all of their responsibility. And so maybe just drop your shoulders a little bit more, drop some of the responsibility that you've been carrying. For right now, if you want to pick it up on your way out, you can. You can loosen up your jaw. Usually we hold a lot of tension in the jaw, a lot of talking, and in the hands. We tend to hold a lot of tension in the hands. So perhaps open your palms, loosen your jaw, drop your shoulders, and then lastly, just breathe into your belly. Just fill up your belly like a balloon. And then when you breathe out, just do a sigh out, just like a let some of that tension go. Starting to just regulate our nervous systems a bit more, drawing our awareness into the moment. And from here, what I want you to do as you start to get here with me a bit more is to just check your own internal weather. So, just like the earth has weather all around the planet right now, there's sunny places and stormy places, there's lightning strikes, and there's typhoons, and there's really calm, warm, sunny beaches. Just, I want you to check your own internal weather for a moment, your own internal atmosphere, and just notice if there is any of that collective tension. If you've been reading the news, if you've been talking to a lot of people, if these people are sharing painful stories with you, if you could just sense, if you're empathic, you just sense some collective tension in your country, in your city, wherever you are. And instead of wanting to shut it down or push it out or ignore it or override it, which we all do so well, just let it be there the way you would watch a storm roll in from your window, more in that sense of curiosity and awe. Like, wow, that collective anxiety is like, it's kind of prickly or electrifying, or it zigs and zags. See if you can be a little curious, like, wow, that's that collective fear. It's so interesting the way it moves. It might surprise you. So when you start to notice an energy like this, you realize it's external to you. It might be in your field, but it's not you. It's not who you are. It's just energy. It might be collective pollution, collective negativity, collective unconscious. So just notice it. Maybe there's a cloud of it. It might have a color, a shape, a form, a density. Just get a sense of that for a moment. Wow, there's some collective energy that's been orbiting around me for a while that I've been in resistance to. Maybe I've done nothing about it, didn't know what to do. And then what I want you to do with that energy is we're going to release some of it from our field. So imagine out in front of you is a big soap bubble, like a nice big soap bubble. You know those ones you would blow as a kid? It was whoop. Some of them were huge. Just let it be right in front of you, just floating. And allow this soap bubble to start to just absorb some of this collective negativity in whatever form you're experiencing it. Could just be noise, distraction, confusion, fear. Maybe it's very acute. The world's ending. You know that one. Everyone freaks out about that one. Ah, right? Sometimes collective panic. Whatever it is, see if you can notice that cloud of energy almost getting sucked into that bubble. just getting neutralized. Every part of that energy that goes into the bubble gets neutralized. It might be coming out of your field, it might be coming out of your head, out of your body. You might feel and sense the sensation of the energy just kind of leaving. It's normal to go a little unconscious when this happens. So if that happens, you can straighten your spine because it is the energy of unconsciousness. This energy does make us go unconscious. It makes us forget who we are. It makes us forget how to feel good. It makes us feel negative about the world, even though that's not true. A lot of it's not true. Let that energy come out. If you're sensitive and you've absorbed it, it's okay. It's coming. If you can absorb, that means you can release. So whatever your ability to absorb is, you have an equal ability to release. That means you're sensitive in both directions. Let that energy fully come out. Let that bubble, that soap bubble, just take all of that collective negativity that you've been noticing. Notice it just really comes out of your field, out of your body. You do not have to become the effect of the world's collective negativity. That might be a lie coming out. And just watch that soap bubble fill all the way in. It just might have color, some darkness in there, whatever it is. Sometimes I like to see it like in Ghostbusters when they catch the ghost. Gotcha. And then when that soap bubble feels like it's pretty full, I want you to just take it and just send it off. Give it a little nudge and just send it way off into the galaxy, out into the stars. Just watch it leave the Earth's atmosphere, go out of our solar system, way out into the void, and just pop it. Just let it go. Boom. And it'll just turn right back into neutral energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can change forms. And so that energy just goes back into its neutral form. And then I want you to take another deep breath. Notice how you feel. Notice maybe there's a little bit more mental, emotional, and energetic space. And as a sensitive, empathic person, you can absorb and you can release. It's a great ability. Great job. And then when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes, move your body around a bit. All right.
Great. Thank you. I like that practice. It's
Good.
interesting also to pop the bubble out in space too. Like I was like, oh, that's a good innovation because we need to dissipate it not just from our field, but from the collective field of planet Earth right now. That's really an interesting little innovation there.
Great. Yeah, we don't want it in our atmosphere.
The atmosphere's got plenty already, so
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it builds right from that core thing of the energy can't be can't get rid of
Destroyed.
the energy. It needs to sort of just change forms.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. How do you sort of recommend building on that practice in a sort of more daily way?
Yeah, so you can sit every morning and check your internal weather. I love this practice. The earth has an atmosphere, you have an atmosphere. We all have one. So what's playing out in that atmosphere every day? And if there is some collective negativity of some form, you can do that over and over. You put up a bubble, let it collect up that collective negativity. And then when it's not in your own field, when you're not just digesting it, then you have some neutrality. And if you want to take action, if you're somebody who wants to change the world, if you're an activist, you want to do it without absorbing the pain and the negativity. So then you
Mhm.
could show up with more neutrality and a clear mind and clear emotional body versus doing everything out of resistance and anger. And even as we know, becoming the energy that we want to defeat. That is so common. If you just keep digesting that negativity that you want to defeat, you become a different version of it. Like I hate my opponent so much that now I'm the angry, person who's negative about everything. How did that happen? And that happens to a lot of activists because they don't know how to release negativity. They just start to fight it and take it on.
Hmm. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about how neutrality is a more effective change strategy collectively. Because oftentimes I think people have it wired that they need the emotion to be mustered to sort of motivate them to sort of, but it doesn't sound like you believe that's the case.
I do not. If you look at any great activists from Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, back to the Buddha, right? Martin Luther King, they were not angry, aggressive people that thought everyone should, march in anger. None of them were. And they were much more intelligent, compassionate, and neutral. So I see neutrality as like the baseline. That's how we come back to center. That doesn't mean we don't care and or have compassion. But if we don't get neutral first, we lose ourselves to reaction. So any good meditation practice, we're finding our sense of stillness and neutrality. So when we meditate, our mind always has a preference. I don't want to sit here. My back hurts. I want to do something else. Give me some ice cream, right? I like this. I don't like that. We're in 24/7 chasing preference. And so we have to find, as meditators, we can find a place of neutrality and stillness. And when we stop feeding that, give me preference, that's actually when our spiritual abilities open up. That's why monks will go sit in a cave for 5, 10, 20 years and do their practice. They have to clear all that energy, all that preference so that they can be clear. And so that's a baseline. That doesn't mean intuition and something deep that you care about can't open up in your heart. I mean, if you look at the Dalai Lama, he invested his entire life in helping his people, right? But he's not angry and bitter about it. He's so playful and open.
Hmm.
So that's the foundation. I think if you want to be a good energy worker, empath, meditator, you need a foundation of neutrality.
Hmm. Let's talk a little bit more about grounding. You've referenced it a little bit here and there, but just how do you approach sort of grounding in connecting with the earth and there also your body as part of this practice?
I always like to quote Alan Watts on this one, where he would say, "We're born from this planet the way an apple is born from an apple tree." We're 100% organic, earth made. I mean, yes, now we have some microplastics in us, but we are all organic, earth made beings. And so when we energetically just become aware of that connection, I think that really grounds our whole system. And so, if, there are visualization tools that I'll use, like a tree trunk growing out of the base of the spine into the earth, just ways to reconnect to the planet spiritually, energetically, emotionally, mentally. We can reconnect to the planet we're on because most of us live, on cement, and we can't see the stars because of all the light pollution, and so we lose touch with the earth and we lose touch with the stars, and we start living a very horizontal kind of two-dimensional life. And when we can open up vertically to the, what's above us, the spirituality, inspiration, our ancestors, the cosmos, and when we open up down to the earth, to that, the core of our animal nature and our instinct and what gave birth to our bodies, then we're much more in alignment with who we are and with life versus this mental, I always have to be obsessed with what's in front of me and trying to process what's behind me.
Mhm. So if you're talking to somebody who's in total empathic overwhelm, like what out of everything you've been sharing, what do you see as like the first most important steps? So sort of sequence of things to kind of get out of that mode into a stance of more empowered healing.
Sure. And by the way, this is the majority of my students. If you're not sensitive, you're probably not coming to me. It's much less likely if you're like, yeah, everything's fine, dude. I'm okay. I don't need you. So I will, preface this by saying the majority of my students are very sensitive and feeling overwhelmed. And so I deal with this on a daily basis. You need a grounded, consistent meditation practice of some kind. When I was with my retreat group recently, is a really fascinating thing happened. One of the students had almost like a Kundalini awakening, shaking, moving, really intense energy. And the rest of the group, um, oddly, I was making a lot of jokes, and the laughter is what ignited it. It wasn't some kind of intense thing. But then it turned into like rolling amounts of energy that was unstoppable. And one of the other teachers had to really, work with this person, and I had 20 something other people. And so we spent an hour, the rest of us, just sitting there, breathing slower and slower, regulating our nervous systems, so to help that one person in the group who couldn't. And I was like, look what we're going to do collectively here, energetically. We're just going to get into our bodies, we're going to ground, and we're going to downshift the energy. And so most empaths do not know where their baseline is. They just don't know, they don't realize they're revved up above their natural state of calmness almost all the time because they're trying to process too much energy that doesn't belong to them. So the first thing is to find the baseline. Where is it? Even if you've only touched it for 1% of your life or less, just to know where it's actually down here. And I'm like, I'm usually way up here because of work or family or, my empathic abilities are too revved up. So we want to meditate until we find that baseline. Oh, it's right here. And then every time we lose it, now at least we're aware. And then what is the second thing? What is causing me to lose it? Every time I'm near a person in anxiety, or every time I'm near someone who has childhood trauma, or every time I read the news. So we all have different triggers. So what is the trigger for you as an individual? Everyone's different. I go around a room, some person says politics, someone says childhood pain, someone says an ex-partner, someone says my job. We all have different triggers. So we have to recognize what's triggering me to lose that baseline, lose my inner center. And then from there, we can get more complicated and nuanced. Like, okay, there's an external energy. I just absorbed it. It's purple. I see it. I feel it. It's coming in through my throat or my head or my abdomen. And now, with some more sophisticated tools, I can recognize it and release it, and not like we just did in meditation, not just become the effect of external energies all the time, where my whole life is dictated
Mm.
by external energies. And most people just live dictated by whatever happens next to them, right? Someone calls, someone texts, something happens in the world. Everything just, they get pushed around instead of going, no, this is my space, this is my energy, this is my intuition, and this is the direction I'm going. And I'm not going to let life choose what my life is going to look like. I'm not going to let the rest of the people in the world, maybe better put,
Mm.
choose what my
Mm.
life's going to look like.
Well, David, you have such a wonderful grounded wisdom about you and clearly so much experience working with these dynamics. And it's really important in this time that all of us learn these practices so that we can be those grounded, clear, neutral change agents that the world needs. Because everybody who's drawn to shift is part of the wake up team for humanity. And so we need this to do that, especially when we're more sensitive. So let's talk a little bit more about your upcoming course, which is a really powerful way to do that for empaths. So it's called Energy Healing for Empaths. Turn your sensitivity into healing power to navigate a turbulent world with inner strength and greater ease. And you can find it at the URL empathenergyhealing.com, empathenergyhealing.com. This is going to be a 7-week program. Each module builds on the last, and there's no prerequisites for it. So wherever you're starting from, just recognizing that you've been in overwhelm, you've been reactive, you're not quite sure how to sort of filter the energy that's coming towards you or work with the backlog that you might have accumulated. David's going to have really great tools for you to navigate that. So, David, do you want to share a little bit about some of your high-level intentions for what people will come away from this course with? And then we can go through the modules and give a preview of what's coming in each.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this talk between us today is a microcosm of what this course is going to be. And so, for those sensitive people who feel overwhelmed by the chaos of the world, maybe of the energy of the people around them, of work, if you have clients, whatever it is that's making you dysregulate and make you feel like you can't stay in your body, can't stay grounded, you can't find your happiness. All of those things can happen to a sensitive empath when they don't know how to manage energy properly. So, throughout the 7 weeks, we're going to learn a number of tools to be able to recognize external energy when it doesn't belong to us, release it, find the energy that is really ours, and be grounded in that. And then from there, You can have intuition, you can have visions, you can create. Maybe you want to be a healer or a professional healer, or you already are. You want to be better at it and not absorb your client's pain. So I think first we begin with awareness, then healing, and then creating.
Beautiful. Module 1 is called The Empath in the Storm, Finding Calm Amid Collective Chaos.
Yeah, so in the first module, one of the things we're going to do is learn how to use the second chakra, which is kind of below the belly button. And this tends to be the center where we feel empathically, where we absorb energy from the world. And we'll learn some tools to regulate that and learn how to turn it up or down. Most people have never actually tried to regulate themselves. They just deal with however they feel. So we're going to consciously look is like, is it blown open? Can we turn it down and see where it is?
Module 2, Staying Grounded and Embodied in Apocalyptic Times, Returning to Safety in Your Own Body.
First of all, let me say this is just my personal opinion, but I don't think the world is coming to an end. And if I'm wrong, we won't be around for you guys to tell me. So, but I do not think the world is coming to an end. I think that is very much a choice of humanity and mental pollution of a very certain frequency. The apocalypse energy wants to tell us things are coming to an end and trigger us into a panic. And then when we're in a panic, it can control us. And so that panic energy is meant for us to lose our space and to leave our bodies. So one of the things we'll do is learn how to get more into the body. A lot of people are a little bit kind of floating above their bodies. We'll get in and learn how to ground so that panic and end of the world vibration doesn't just spin us out.
Hmm. Module 3, Transforming Collective Fear and Pain, Reclaiming Your Energy as a Source of Calm.
More of what we discussed about neutrality. So, with all of the intense energies around the world in meditation, we're going to learn how to not just always chase pleasure and avoid pain, but find that deep central neutrality where we can, if you want to become a Gandhi or a Dalai Lama, or just the version of you that can be grounded in any storm.
Module 4, Boundaries, Neutrality, and Compassion as an Empath, Staying Open Without Absorbing Pain.
We also talked about this a bit earlier when I mentioned that kind of that imagine if there was a satellite orbiting you and it was giving you information like a sensor. It's a form of a boundary. So we'll be working on different kinds of boundaries, not the ones just made out of resistance, but the ones made from awareness, where we can let things in we want to let in and keep things out we want to keep out.
Module 5, The Purpose and Opportunity of Darkness, Transforming Shadow into Healing Power.
Yeah, this one we didn't get into too much, but Stephen, in my experience in life, the people who don't face their darkness are always not trustable, you know, and we've seen that. You can't just be goody two shoes all the time. We all have all parts of ourselves. And if we don't face those parts, sometimes they manifest in a dark way externally. So in meditation, we'll be looking at some of those parts of ourselves, really acknowledging them, maybe doing some healing on them, but also integrating them so we don't have to externalize darkness and hurt anyone else in the world.
Module 6, Building Unshakable Resilience, Transforming Helplessness into Healing Power.
A little bit of what I was describing before of that apocalypse energy of like the world is spinning out of control, no one could do anything, and there's this belief that it's all going in one direction and there's no way to stop it. And now, when people talk about AI, it's like it's all going in this direction. It's going to become conscious and destroy us all. Like, okay, that is one of many possibilities that you saw in a movie. It is not destiny. Nothing is destiny. That's an energy that says this is the only thing that can happen. That's another form of panic energy. So as meditators, as energy workers, we can learn to find a resilience to all of that intense energy that wants to push us in one direction. It's not true. We can shape this planet however we want to.
Love that. Module 7, From Empath to Healer, Living Your Sensitivity as Sacred Service.
That's what I do for a living. And if you told me, Stephen, when I was, 18 years old or 20, that this is what I would be doing, I would have laughed in your face. Like, you're crazy. So when we start to find who we are and refine our energy and separate from all the pain of the world, that's when our gifts start to come out. And one of those gifts is learning maybe how to be a healer in the world. So empaths who are unconscious are often potential healers, or empaths that haven't healed are often potential healers, whether it's their career or not. If you're an empath, there is a healer inside you. And as we get towards the end of the course, that healer might want to start to birth. And we're going to explore what that looks like.
Hmm. Well, what a great program. So healing and grounded and really getting you to the place where you can just navigate the complexities and chaos and intensities of this world in a really clear way. So again, there's more detail on each module laid out at empathenergyhealing.com. I'll share a few other things about the program. And so if you choose to move forward, you're going to get 7 90-minute live sessions with David. We just described those. That includes time to ask your questions live, as well as do interactive practices as a collective. There's recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word for word transcripts that are great to go back with to work with and study. There's weekly exercises and practices for home. There's a community group to support you and deepen your experience and also make real friendships, as well as small group time to connect with other participants and do the practices together. And on the page, you'll also see there are a number of extra bonuses that David has been generous about including. There's a audio meditation and PDF excerpt from the book, The Seven Energies of the Soul. It's called Energies of the Soul, the Healer and the Healthy Healer Meditation. I'll share a bit more about that bonus.
Yeah, in my book, I describe the difference between a healer in excess and a healer in deficiency. So a healer in excess is someone who gives away maybe too much energy, has poor boundaries. Perhaps a healer in deficiency is someone who is not sharing their gifts with the world. So we explore what it means to be a healthy healer.
Hmm. That's one bonus and great one. And then there's a full 3 months of free access to David's guided meditations on the Meditation School app. I'll share more about that.
Yeah, so the app is on Apple or on desktop for everybody, so you can access it wherever. And there's I think over 300 hours of classes, courses, content that you just get access to for those 3 months. There's healing courses, there's meditation courses, relationship, sleep. I try to cover all the topics for those enthusiastic meditators.
That's an amazing how much you've generated there. And then finally, there's one special bonus. It's a video teaching with David, Cody Edner, and Jade Wolf called Awakening the Third Eye. Share a little bit more about the Awakening the Third Eye bonus, which is the special bonus folks get when they sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time.
I've been teaching the intuitive arts with Cody for 10, 11 years. We actually just took a group to the Himalayas together, and he's a master teacher of the intuitive arts. And so we teach you how to awaken this mind's eye, how to maybe clean the center of your head out so you can see mental images, learn to see energy, and awaken some of those intuitive abilities. So we have our empathic feeling abilities. We also have our abilities to see energy.
Hmm. What a great extra reason to sign up right away, getting the Awakening the Third Eye bonus with David, Cody Edner, and Jade Wolf. So it's clearly going to be such a valuable program. We're very excited for this, and you can find more details again at empathenergyhealing.com, empathenergyhealing.com. We've kept the investment very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start January 13th and run Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. So there's some great testimonials on the page from people who've studied with David, and both about his meditations and all the different great insights that he's teaching. So you're in really good hands, and you will get, I think, very powerful tools for you to transform your relationship with your sensitivities and really be able to navigate these times as a clear, conscious, grounded, and strong agent of change in different ways in the world. So. Again, the course is called Energy Healing for Empaths. Turn your sensitivity into healing power to navigate a turbulent world with inner strength and greater ease. And it's all at empathenergyhealing.com. So, David, we're in our final couple minutes. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks that we haven't, and particularly those who are considering doing the course with you?
I want to reiterate, I do not think the world is ending. But more seriously, Almost every single person I know, everyone is anxious about the world. And that is not normal. We are taking it as normal because it's so common. Just because something is common doesn't make it normal. And so you do not have to live in this energy of anxiety about the way the world is. You can shift that and start to be one of those people that help shift the world. And when I when I left India to go to Hawaii in my mid 20s, early mid 20s, there were no online courses yet. That didn't exist. And there were no podcasts, whatever. And so I got to Hawaii. I had like $200 to my name, and I hitchhiked out of the airport, and I had nowhere to sleep. I was nuts for doing all that. I ended up sleeping in a tent on a farm so I could go to school and get these tools. I spent 7 years at a school learning these tools and just working my butt off to pay for the training. And my God, is it easier now, Stephen, to be here?
Thanks for doing the heavy lifting there.
Oh
Although living in
Lord,
Hawaii, there's some perks there.
living in Hawaii poor is not as great as it seems. But yes, it was still good. It was still good. And I'll preface that all by saying, wow, are we lucky now that we have access to all of this and that we can come together collectively, people from every part of the planet, do this energy work, do healing on ourselves, and maybe shift the energy on this planet. And
Mm,
so if you come sit with me for this, I hope that we do that collectively. I might be the teacher, but you might be the healer,
mm,
and you might shift some energy that will last long after I am gone. And I
mm.
hope that happens.
Beautiful. Well, David, you're such a source of wisdom and clarity and calm. I just feel like being with you just is calming and grounding in a really wonderful way. So, thank you for your insights here today and your practices, and look forward to the upcoming course. And I know people are going to get great benefit. So again, it's all at empathenergyhealing.com, and you get that special bonus on awakening the third eye if you sign up by midnight tonight. So thank you so
Awesome.
much. Many blessings.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Stephen.